Why, hello there. It's been a while, gang, but I decided to kind of come back and pick it up where I left off. A review once every year or two. I kind of like that pace. Recently, I got a figure that I didn't think that I would be getting, just because it had kind of this vague sense of deja vu about it. But then I saw it in person and I just had to pick it up. It is Studio Series 86 Leader Class Soundwave. Just look at this guy. He is just absolutely stunning. A very bright shade of blue that pops out just like the animation. In fact, the whole thing screams animation model. That's kind of what made me pick him up in the first place. If you look, it's very kind of smooth on the surfaces, but it is nice. It's kind of tall, a beautiful chest window there that takes up the entirety of his tummy. Paint apps are a bit sparse. It depends a lot on plastic coloring, but it still comes across nicely. This thing has plenty of articulation, everything you'd expect from a modern leader class figure, from double jointed elbows, universal hips, about 90 degrees at the knee, although it does kind of leave a gap in the front there. A ball jointed head. And his hands open up and close like this. Wrist swivels, even kind of butterfly shoulders, two-way. Oh, I dropped a gun. Ah. And he's not all that much taller than a Voyager, but a little bit taller. Understanding he comes with the 3 cassette bots in the box, you can understand why he's a bit smaller than you may expect at a leader class, but also he is a little bit bigger than your average Voyager. But again, I just can't help but get kind of a feeling of deja vu, but it still looks really nice. It feels really nice. The color really pops. Although now that I look at it, the colors are actually a little bit more muted than I would expect from a Soundwave. And looking a bit closer at what I have in my hand now, there are quite a few compromises here. I know that I said having 3 cassette bots in the box may excuse some size discrepancies, but this is just straight up a regular sized Voyager. But I do gotta say he is pretty. Even despite some weirdness in the arms here with some kibble, the hollow gap right there. I do like that he kind of fits in more with the Generation style figures with all of the detailing. Not really trying to copy the animation model here directly, with a lot of detail added to make him feel more mechanical. I do like that. And he has a bunch of the articulation you'd expect from a modern Voyager leader figure. Universal shoulders, double jointed elbows, ankle pivots that don't really go as far as I would like. A 90-degree knee bend that does leave a bit of a gap there though. And a ball jointed head. It is honestly a nice figure, and it does come with the 3 cassette bots, but I feel like for coming out at a leader class price point, this does feel quite a bit compromised. Let's take a closer look at the head though. I absolutely love the head sculpt here, especially with the light piping. Really kind of comes alive. I know that painted eyes might have worked a bit better to always look bright, but getting this guy under a nice light source really makes it pop. But if you take a look closer at the eyes here, they are painted. I would have really liked to have seen it light piped, to kind of make it pop a bit more. But at least this way the eyes always look pretty good. I feel like approaching it in a new mold like this, instead of just rehashing the Siege mold, really makes it fill the leader class price point quite well. Because again, it is a nice size, bigger than a Voyager you'd expect. Oh gosh, something doesn't quite feel right. What am I saying? I'm just going to keep on going. He comes with 2 weapon accessories, the shoulder cannon and the handheld kind of blaster there with the kind of fake missile that can collapse in and make it into a battery, make it a set of batteries there. And again, they have these kind of long posts on them to be able to fit in here. And again, they plop in really nicely. It's very clever to have the hideaway missile there, and they pose really nicely with it. So what's going on? But overall, an excellent, original, pretty solid reuse of the Siege mold new take at Soundwave. But now on to the 3 little guys included in the box. You've got Ravage, Buzzsaw, and the classic guy, Laserbeak, Frenzy or Rumble. Wait a minute. In the game. Frenzy or Rumble, depending on your taste, is a really nice little cassette. He's a re-release of the Studio Series core class figure. A little parts formery with the jetpacks, but very solid and nice articulation for a little guy. Taking a look at Buzzsaw here, and again, there's some of that Siege detailing. He's a little extra detailed. The details are a bit simple because it's the Studio Series, and the simplicity of the look does fit with the character model. The backpack is a little small, but it is integrated in to the transformation and not an extra part. The jetpack on the back looks really nice, although I really wish they could have integrated it into the cassette. It's just an extra piece, more stuff to have to keep track of. That head sculpt looks nice and bird-like with that kind of painted beak there. It's a bit more of a basic head sculpt, but it does have the more animation accurate look, even with the darker gray beak there. And Laserbeak is the same, just with red. And let's take a look at Ravage here. He looks really, really nice. Nice. A bit compromised, but it's impressive that they were able to get everything to fit in the cassette with no extra parts. With the only caveat that they had to have this whole extra tail piece. It's a whole separate part. Another thing you gotta keep track of. He unfortunately has no tail, and the proportions of the legs are a bit weird, but again, it all stays in one tiny little package, so I can't complain there. This thing has literally no head articulation because of how it transforms, so it's a bit unexpressive there, but it's a nice looking head sculpt. Very compromised head sculpt. When these three were first revealed, you couldn't help but compare them to the previous cassette bots that were released. Previous cassette bots. Anyway, you couldn't help but think that they looked a bit more simplistic and basic, but actually having them in hand, they have a very solid hand feel to them, which I definitely appreciate. Again, a couple of compromises with the separate parts and everything, having to keep track of those. And Soundwave luckily has some spots to store those extra bits, but I can't for the life of me find enough to store all three sets of extra items. But transform these three little guys real quick, and you get three solid looking cassettes. Three little cassettes that are very, very solidly and nicely put together, although kind of compromised, all very gappy, especially Ravage. Form a very nice solid rectangle, especially Ravage. And as always, they fit really, really neatly inside Soundwave's chest. One at a time, though. So overall, as a package in robot mode, I really do like this guy, even though he is pretty compromised as a result of being a remold released as a leader scale figure. I just wish they would have just made something new and original. Really kind of digging this new original take on Soundwave. But this mold has some really nice highlights, and I'm at least glad that they were able to get it into a cassette player form of some kind. Soundwave, I'm really glad they took the time to make a new mold here, and it looks really good and feels really good, and really shows the benefits of what taking a new pass at a character can be. Now let's get him transformed. And here we have our very immaculate, kind of compromised tape deck. From the front anyway. It's a little kibbly along the back and not super flush along the sides, but at least it's flat and it looks really good from the front. It suffers from being a remold of a figure that wasn't even designed to have this mold, but it looks pretty good from the front, even with a couple of gaps in the middle. And it's a little kibbly on the side. Nice and flat along the front. Really looks like one solid unit. Like, it's a bit layered on the front. It doesn't look like the most solid unit. Pops open with a button. So nice tape deck details on the inside, but no other kind of painted details or anything. It looks very plain because it was based off the animation model. The coloring really pops because they were able to take some liberties being based more off the toy and a New Generations toy instead of being so slavish to the animation model. But overall, a pretty darn good Soundwave tape deck mode. Overall, kind of a compromised Soundwave tape deck mold. Again, because it had to be a remold. Again, because they were able to take all of their energy and put it into creating a new figure for Soundwave. Wait. Two Soundwaves. both Leader Class, both with 3 cassette bots, both released within a year of each other? Hasbro stuck me in a time loop. Because, of course, there have been rumblings for years of a new studio series Soundwave. But good old Legacy Evolution just couldn't let it go. They re-released this, the previously exclusive Netflix redo of Siege Soundwave, a figure that was not designed to turn into a tape deck at all, and they had to kind of fudge this whole thing together. And it was a Voyager figure, a kind of small Voyager figure at that, padded out to be sold at the Leader Class price point. And I saw it, and I thought, you know what, Studio Series probably isn't going to be that much better. I would really like a Generations Soundwave to go on my Generations shelf. And I got it, and I was pretty happy with it, compromises and all. But you had to do it to me, Hasbro. You knew you were going to release this. You knew you were going to release a much better version, a much less compromised figure of this character. These things were in the pike for years. You knew. And we've seen this trick before. But I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. You got my money not once, but twice. When they revealed this, looking at the CGI renders that they revealed, I thought to myself, that doesn't actually look all that much better than this. I think I'm fine just getting this. But no, I saw it in the store, and it looked a lot better in person, and of course, you knew that would happen. You suckered me right into it. The paradox you created by doing this kind of sleazy business move, it trapped me in a time warp. But I got out, and now I'm coming for you. Or maybe I'll just enjoy both of them. Anyways, with all of that existential dread out of my system, both of these have their own separate spots on my shelf. This one can stay with the movie boys, and this one can stay with my Legacy Generations stuff. But gosh darn it, one of these days, I gotta stop being so gullible. Anyways, that's my Twisted Time Warp double review. I hope you guys have a wonderful time. I hope that I find more time to do this kind of a thing. And yeah, I definitely recommend a pickup if you do see this guy out and about now on the shelves. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you eventually.